Okay, thanks for watching this video. As you can see by the title, what I'm doing here is I'm going to show a relationship between the positioning of the pyramids at Giza and the positioning of Jupiter and Saturn to the Sun. So we'll go ahead and get started here. I've always thought there was something strange about the pyramids at Giza. I've never believed they were tombs, and I've read a lot about it, and I think anyone that has knows that there's very little proof of anything about what they are. So it's more of an interpretation than mainstream science would have you believe. The majority of people, I think, that believe they are tombs are doing it without any real evidence to back that up. Nevertheless, I'm going to get right into it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw the layout of the pyramids at Giza as you would see them in facing north, right? So first you would have Khufu, and then you would have Khafre, and then you would have down a little bit from that, you would have Menkaure, right? So, all right, let me get off that page. Now, what I've done here is drawn these. It's not really to scale, but this is what I want to look at, okay? Now, if you take this center point right here of Khufu, and the center point of Khafre, and the center point of Menkaure, what I'm really interested in are these segments, okay? Those vectors, okay? So I'm always looking at the, in addition to always looking at the pyramids, I'm always looking at our solar system, right? And the positioning of the planets and things. So we have a vector here. If I take Khufu, okay, and make it the sun, okay, and then I say Khafre is Jupiter, right? And then Menkaure is Saturn, okay? And if I say, okay, that's the sun, and then I say, okay, this is the orbit of Saturn, and this is the orbit of, I'm sorry, this is the orbit of Jupiter, and this is the orbit of Saturn, right? Okay, so this is an orbit, that's a diameter, and this is a diameter, okay? So what I did was I took I found a couple different drawings that agreed with each other on Google, showing the positioning of the pyramids, okay? And I laid them out on CAD. I have a history with CAD. I can draw, and I have a program. So I was able to actually draw this out, and if you draw out the pyramids and you use these points and draw these circles, you'll get a specific diameter, but more importantly, what you'll get is a specific ratio, and that's what I'm interested in right now. What is the ratio of this diameter to this diameter, okay? Now, if you lay out the Giza Plateau, just the three pyramids, you'll come up with a ratio of this diameter to this diameter of 1.923. Okay? So this is the diameter of Jupiter. This is the diameter of Saturn. So the diameter of Saturn over the diameter of Jupiter equals 1.923. I'm sorry, the diameter of Khafre to Khufu and Menkaure to Khufu is this, right? I don't know what that number is with Jupiter and Saturn to the Sun right now. I haven't looked that. I didn't at the time look that up. That's what we're doing next. Okay, so I got this and I said 1.923. I happen to know that, you know, since I've already studied it quite a bit, the positioning, you know, the orbital distances of the planets. I knew that was close. And so once I had drawn this out, I knew that I might be onto something. I didn't know if it was 1.92, but I knew it was up there. Okay, I knew it was close to 2, but I didn't know how close to 2 it was. So I went on Wikipedia and I got the distances from, so you have the orbit, of Jupiter and the orbit of Saturn. And if you take that ratio, right, you will come up with 1.852, depending on which source you use. There's a lot of different sources for this, and they don't all agree. But then I was thinking to myself, okay, well, that's not very close, so maybe I'm not onto something. I mean, you're within, what, as it sits right now, you're within 7%, right? 3.5%, approximately. Which, yeah, you know, I don't know. But then I remembered, wait a minute, planet orbits are not diameters, they're ellipses, right? So I thought to myself, well, so I went back and looked, and indeed, this is using the average orbits, average distance from the Sun. Average. Well, that changes considerably, especially with Saturn. Okay. So what I did was, you know, if you were to take the ellipses of the two, you know, orbits and kind of, you know, and this is exaggerated, you know, and made them, you know, look like ellipses, you could see that, you know, there's a period where it's at a minimum, and then there's a period where it's at its maximum. Okay, right? Theoretically, from the minimums and the maximums, and so the numbers I'm going to give you now is to show you that what would this be if this was, if the two orbits were perfect, and I'm going to exaggerate this, right? If the two orbits were perfectly perpendicular, right, from each other, and showing the max in one direction and the min in another direction, right, or the max and the min, right? Just for a basis to use, right, at this stage. So when you go and you take the shortest Jupiter distance and the longest Saturn distance, you'll get a ratio. Okay, so now you have the orbit of Saturn longest over Jupiter. Oh, this is just a terrible whiteboard, really cheap. And you have the orbit of Jupiter longest. Actually, Saturn or longest, Jupiter would be the shortest, giving you the biggest ratio possible between these two. And you come up with 2.038. And if you do the opposite and you say, okay, the orbit of Saturn at its smallest over the orbit of Jupiter at its biggest, largest, I should say, to stay constant, we want the minimum ratio that this could be, right? and that's 1.653. Okay? So I said to myself, well, now we're in range, because this 1.92 falls within this range right here, right? So when you're looking at these vectors of the pyramids and saying the center to center to center distance could be the sun out to Jupiter and then out to Saturn, you've certainly got the potential for this to be right, okay? Now, why don't I know this is right? Why don't I know this? Well, because I don't know where they are in relationship to each other right now. I don't know where Saturn is on this ellipse. I don't know where Jupiter is on this ellipse. I don't know, right? So I thought, well, let's see. So I typed in, where are the planets now, right? And you come up with you can find a website that says theplanetstoday.com. Okay. If you go to that, make sure you hit to scale on the left, and then make sure you zoom out so that you can see Jupiter and Saturn. So I did that to see where they are, if I could see where they were on this ellipse, right? If I could see, if I could tell if it was a little bigger than the mean, with the mean average being 1.85, so it's a little bit bigger, So let's see, where are they positioned right now? Well, lo and behold, if you look at that website, okay, you'll see that Jupiter and Saturn are like right here and right here right now. Now, I don't care where these are. This is floating, right? So you could just take this and rotate it, and sure enough, right now, the positions of Jupiter and Saturn potentially reflect almost exactly the positions in relationship to each other of the pyramids at Giza, with Khufu being the sun, Khafre being Jupiter, and Menkaure being Saturn. Now, there's reasons I can't figure this out exactly, and that is because I haven't been able to find a website that tells me exactly where each planet is in its elliptic orbit, right? So basically what I'm saying is what I need is an exact distance from the sun today, right, of Jupiter and Saturn. And that I could not find on the internet. And if anyone can find that, please help me out to see if these numbers are even closer, okay? Also, I can't get the angle exactly. This angle that I see on that website, it's just visual, right? I can't find those numbers from each other. I can't find how to get those. Now, I've got an extensive mathematical background, geometry background. I've had dynamics, kinematics, physics, all college level, engineering level stuff. And so if the information's out there, I'll know how to work with it to see how close this really is. The geometry of this is actually fairly simple to figure out, right? Actually, it could be a little difficult with the ellipse, but you could kind of cheat and draw it on CAD and get your numbers rather than figuring them out mathematically. But it could be figured out mathematically as well. So I wanted to throw that out there. I mean, what do you think? I mean, right now, today, February 10th, visually, with all the evidence I can find on the internet, Jupiter and Saturn are aligned to the sun precisely the same way relatively, as the three pyramids at Giza are, using Khufu as your sun, Khafre as Jupiter, and Menkaure as Saturn. I have no idea what that means. Either it means nothing, or it means something. You can be of the opinion that, you know, everything's a coincidence or nothing is a coincidence. You know, I don't know what to think about that. I just wanted to throw that out there and see what other people thought about that. I think it's pretty interesting. I've always wondered what these pyramids were telling us. Since they didn't tell us anything with writing, they have to be telling us something with their existence, with their structure, with their layout, right? To me, I mean, that's the conclusion I come to, is the layout of the pyramids have to be telling us something, since there's nothing else about it that really tells us anything about it, right? You know, and then there's the interesting facts about how, if you were to split the landmass up north and south, and then 50% out here and 50% up here, and draw a line, and then do the same thing east and west, put 50% of landmass here, 50% of landmass here. You know, if you had a flat map, right, and it was to scale, right, and you put all the landmass and you try to find that balance point of the landmass where half's here, half's here, half's here, half's here, that point would be at the Giza Plateau, right? And just the sheer size of them, and the fact that they're so old, nobody knows how. There's nothing that exists about them being built. There's just some truly amazing things about those pyramids, and I've always just pondered them really, really deeply, because I really think that they have a huge message for mankind. I just can't convince myself what it is. But this is interesting, okay? Because maybe we need to understand our solar system better than we do. Maybe we need to revise the way we understand our solar system. All of my stuff is at this YouTube channel, Stars Divide, and I have a blog spot, Stars Divide, that I will put this as a link in this video. Or the stuff that I write is if you're interested. But I've done a lot of videos about the cycle, the pulse of our solar system. It's a little different. It's a little outside of the box than mainstream science and how they view the formation of our solar system. So if you want to take a look at that, you can. I don't know how much that actually has to do with this, but it could all be related, in my opinion. I have 2 more videos in the future about that for people that are more interested in that subject. But if you just take everything else I've done and even toss it aside and just look at this for what it really is, I mean, I think it's pretty interesting. I'd like to know what other people's thoughts are about it. So if you want, leave a comment, and enjoy your day. Thanks.